Hello and welcome to another edition of Chiodini's Kitchen, video game recipes made real. Now this week's recipe is pretty authentic, which is another way of saying I don't think it's going to be very nice. Mainly because the recipe says it isn't. This week we're making Sloop from Thief. So in Thief, that's the reboot of Thief, not the original, you can find a document with a recipe for Sloop. Its author begins the recipe by saying, "Father, mother, forgive my crime. This broth," I refuse to use the street term sloop, "would not pass for runoff in Oldale, but I must make coin to rub together, and the common man must eat." Inspiring stuff so far, I think you'll agree. Our self-loathing chef then goes on to describe the rest of the cooking process, which goes as follows. Broth base, 4 parts water, 1 part animal blood, 1 part cooking grease. Boil the base, add sweated grey meat. Separately boil vegetables until the rot rises to the surface. Skim the froth, add vegetables to base, add alcohol or pickling brine to taste. Serve piping hot. Now at this point you may be wondering how exactly you're supposed to obtain animal blood without doing anything cruel and or illegal, and to be honest with you, here in the UK it's quite tricky. If a butcher wants to sell fresh blood from their shop, there's quite a bit of red tape involved. No pun intended. Anyway, happily this week I discovered you can buy big old bags of dried pig's blood quite readily on the internet. I mean, I say I happily discovered this. To be honest, really not sure how I feel about this recipe. Anyway, step 1, we need to work on turning some of this powder back into blood to get our sloop base going. Okay, so we've got some measuring cups there. We've got our bag of blood. Let's get some scissors and cut this open. Apparently, some warm water and a lot of vigorous stirring is the key here, with 6 parts of water to every 1 part. This is so weird. Of blood. So here goes nothing. So yeah, I guess this is our reconstituted pig's blood. To be honest, I feel like some kind of animal necromancer, to be honest. It's a lot darker than I thought it would be, but then of course I imagine the drying process left it fairly well oxidised. Anyway, never mind, it's time to combine this with 4 parts of water and 1 part cooking grease, I think I'm going to use butter, and get that boiling. Alright, so that's what the base for our sloop currently looks like. I'm just going to leave that to reach the boil while occasionally stirring it, and in the meantime I'm going to start sweating the grey meat. I've gone for cubes of beef, but to be honest there are a worrying number of ways you could interpret the word grey meat, so just go with whatever meat speaks to you most strongly. Okay, so that is our grey meat nicely sweated there, so it's time to add it to the pan over here, which is doing all sorts of frothy foam on the top forming things, but never mind, in goes the grey meat, and we're just going to stir that in and leave that to simmer while we work on the vegetables. Now, much like the grey meat, the recipe doesn't really specify what vegetables you ought to be using, but I had to think about the setting. I thought, yeah, medieval-ish town, let's go for a bit of cabbage and maybe a carrot or two. That just seems fitting to me. Of course, the recipe does say you need to boil them until the rot rises to the surface, but you'll probably notice that this cabbage is actually looking quite healthy. I'm very sorry, but all I could find in the shots were fresh vegetables, and I don't really have time to wait for these to start rotting. Hopefully you'll forgive me. We're just going to boil them until the carrots start to soften instead. Right, so our veg has just finished boiling, so what I'm going to do is strain all the water out and add that into the Sloop base along with the grey meat. And with that step done, the Sloop is basically finished. All we need to do is add in either alcohol or pickling brine to taste. I'm going to add some of the juice from this jar of gherkins. And that, everybody, is Sloop from Thief. To be honest, it currently doesn't look that bad. I mean, it looks a bit thin and oily on the top and maybe a bit bland. It certainly smells alright. It smells, you know, frankly, very buttery. But the real question is, how does it taste? Well, Sloop, there it is. Let's see how it is. Huh. That was kind of almost boring, but it kind of almost works as well. Hold on. You know, the base is actually a lot better than I thought it would be. It depends if you like black pudding, because really, obviously, it tangs quite strongly of black pudding, but also very strongly of the butter I put in there, which was the cooking grease the recipe called for. To be honest, the gherkin juice isn't really coming through. I should have put a bit more in there, but it's actually fine. Like, I thought this would just be kind of grim and frothy and everything, but I think the blood is so dilute that it's inoffensive, and if anything, it imparts just quite a nice but very mild flavour. I'm quite impressed with this recipe in that A, it is edible, if not exactly exciting, but B, it is exactly the kind of thing you'd expect to get, like, in a horrible little dingy cafe in a run-down slummy part of a medieval town. It's kind of like having a bowl of brown in Game of Thrones. So yeah, Sloop. I thought it would be absolutely disgusting, but it's fine. It's just a bit bland. And now I've got like half a kilo of dried pig's blood to use up. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me for this edition of Chiodini's Kitchen. To be honest, I feel like we dodged a bullet. That I thought was going to be disgusting, but I have made far, far worse things in this kitchen. Speaking of which, if you have any suggestions for future recipes for me to cover, disgusting or nice, preferably nice, please do keep them coming in the comments because they are really, really useful. Thanks, by the way, to whoever it was that suggested Sloop. They did it a while ago, so I cannot remember their name, but really it was very, very much appreciated. Anyway, if you'd like to see more from Eurogamer, there are plenty other videos for you to watch. Some of them are on screen now, framing my face. Please do like and subscribe if you feel like it, but if not, really, there's no pressure. Either way, thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day.